Hello everyone, and welcome back. My name is Sind. This is going to be my follow-up for Mind Control Yoga. The build has now cleared all the way to time mark 8 and above, and I'm happy with what it has achieved. If you haven't seen the previous video for this character, I recommend you go and check that out, as it goes over the starting setup for mapping that I used to comfortably farm tier 7s in order to acquire the necessary currency to craft the gear you're going to see in this video. Also, if you want to know how I make my currency in SSF, to be able to make all of the builds I've showcased in my channel, check out the video in the cards in the top right corner. Apart from that, you can also see on the screen right now the current state of our damage, which is somewhere about 8k or 8 billion at the peak from our trade, and we average somewhere between 7 to 8 billion DPS. Let us start with the gearing section for the current character. For our gear, as you can see, we are currently using two uniques. First one being Royal Guard boots. I talked about this in the previous video. I've gotten the corruption on the last mod, allowing us to get 10% additional erosion damage for every 5% of missing life. This counts as reserved life as well, therefore we're getting a lot of additional erosion damage from these boots. The negative from elemental resistance is a bit annoying. It makes being able to cap our resistance a bit difficult even while using elemental resistance aura, but it is still a big gain to our DPS. Other than that, we're using a pair of crossroad gloves. They are quite nice. They allow us to inflict pain on nearby enemies, and pain increases the damage that enemy takes by up to 50% additional damage, and also reduces their movement, which is very good, as you can see. On top of that, it comes with a bit of energy shield as well, so it's a decent enough pair of gloves. Other than that, most of our pieces of gear are scaling exactly the same way. They're going to be energy shield, they're going to be affliction effect, they're going to be resistances where I can get them, they're going to be ripping duration, and that's pretty much it for our scaling vectors for the most part. Here on our chest piece, as you can see, we have a bit of defensives as well. We have less damage taken from enemies. We have energy shield, we have aura effect, which is also a pretty decent vector for scaling our damage. And then we have elemental resistance and erosion resistance. On our neck piece, we have aura effect, we have affliction effect, we have spell damage on the prefixes, and then we have max energy shield. The other two modes aren't doing anything here in this setup for us, but we can use them as things to discard once we dreamcraft this affliction effect to tier 0, which is what I'm trying to do currently. On our belt, once again, defenses, max energy shield, affliction effect, and resistance. Very simple, very straightforward. On our ring here, we have energy shield, spell damage, ripping duration, affliction effect, and elemental resistance. Ripping duration is also a very good mod for us to get, so if you can get that, do so. Second ring, same thing, spell damage, max energy shield, affliction effect, ripping duration, and a resistance. And here on our wands, this is a very good wand, has tier 0 affliction, +2, and then very lucky 2 tier 1 crafts, very good wand. And on this one we have a double tier 0 with affliction effect and erosion skill, 3 crafts, spell damage is quite low. The crafts here could be quite better optimally, but still a decent wand. And obviously the 2 tier 0s are phenomenal. And yeah, that's pretty much the gear we have right now. As you can see, unfortunately, we don't even have lightning capped, even though I would very much like to. I've been trying to get this tier to tier 2 or tier 1, but hasn't happened yet. Eventually I will get it, and that's fine. Resistance for erosion, unfortunately I haven't found a way to cap it on this character. Like, all the resistance I have are very near their total, right? They're not that much overcapped, so unfortunately I don't have a lot of space to drop resistance here without dropping a lot of damage from our suffixes with ripping duration, with affliction effect. So I feel like if you have perfect gear that you can get in trade, it's a lot easier to cap your resistances than in SSF, where obviously your gearing is limited. On our skills here, as you can see, we have mind control. We swapped shorter duration for pain amplification, Then we have the same support still: Cataclysm, Passivation, Erosion, Penetration, and Control Spell. On our Arcane Circle, we have Rhythm, Mania, and optimally Mass Effect. There you go, fixed. Then we have 4 start defensive layers with Rhythm. We have Starstalker, which is a new skill that's just introduced this patch. It increases our dot damage by quite a bit, so aim to get this in any way that you find that suits your playstyle. Could be here, could be only cast while channeling, that's up to you. A link to our usual suspects for supports: Well-Fought Battle, Mania, Mass Effect, and Rhythm. Mana Boil, exactly the same thing: Well-Fought Battle, Mania, Mass Effect. All of these are increasing the effect of the skill, so very, very good for any Empower skill that we have. After that, we have Innate Curse with Corruption, Abysmal Hatred, and Swiftness. Why do we use Innate Curse with Corruption rather than Entangling Pain? It's very simple. Corruption as the tag for Chaos, or is it Chaos? Erosion, sorry. Path of Exile Brain. Erosion, meaning it is going to scale with our added levels, and Entangle Pain does not. So this is why this curse will always be better for you. Or it should be, at least. I've tested it out, and for me it's way better. If you have doubts, check your own character to see, but Corruption should be better. After that, here we have the Pain, Precise Corrosion Imbue. It doesn't need to be precise by any means, but it's a good additional. Magical Source and Energy Fortress. And finally, we have Trigger Wall Channeling with Blurry Steps, Precise Elemental Resistance, Soul Conversion, and Precise Erosion and Enhancement here. For our candles, they are a waste of time, but they are the only ones I had that have anything to do with this build, so still, here we have 3% or 6% aura effect, and here we have a bit of erosion penetration. Been trying to get a few better candles, but it's just not been on my side currently, so these are what we are working with. So as you can see, between the slides and the candles, you could gain a lot more power here, or a lot more defensives. For our passive tree, as you can see, we're still using the same 3 trees that we were before: Goddess of Deception, Shadow Master, and Psychic. We are still using the same big nodes on all 3 of them, and the trees as of right now are as follows. For our Statue of the New God, as you can see, we're still level 94, so we haven't unlocked the final 2 slots. Otherwise, you could get an extra slate in there, potentially gaining quite a bit more damage or defensives, whatever you choose to aim towards. On this one is a very average slate. We got a bit of defensives and elemental resistance, we got aura effect, and we got damage from channel skills at max channel stacks. We are always going to be on max channel stacks, so decent enough, but could easily be replaced for something more offensive or more defensive. On this one, we have a bit of affliction effect, but the big deal here is the persistence skill level, which applies to our mind control, so we're getting +1 from this. And then we have a bit of skill duration and about 7% max energy shield, which is nice as well. On this one, we have our way of getting blur. If you don't have this specific node on one of your slates, on Shadow Master skill tree, there's 5 points that will allow you to gain the exact same effect, but this saves us 5 points and allows us to invest those in more damage or more ES, up to you. So that's a very good way of saving points, is getting that specific trait on one of your slates here. And then we have Reaping duration and a bit of skill duration as well. This one, very simple, very straightforward. We have a bit of sealed mana, we have curse effect, dot, affliction effect, erosion resistance, and max energy shield. None of these mods are particularly good, but they are the best I could find for the build. On this one, we have a lot of erosion damage. We have Empower skill effect, which affects our mana boil and our arcane skill, so it's a very good thing to get on your divine slate if you can. And then we have just a few bits of damage and a bit of energy shield as well. So as you can see on our slates, there's a lot of power still to be gained for this build. You can easily achieve over 10 million, or 10 billion I should say. Finally, for our hero traits, as you can see, we're still using the same traits as from the last video about the build. For our relic, we are using a tier 1 additional damage over time per points of temporal energy. And then we have records an additional 1% of dot damage you deal to enemies per enemy with space-time turbulence, which is what affects enemies when they are inside your trait area. We are still using a Secrets of Time to increase our regeneration of space-time energy, otherwise we can't sustain it. And we are using one-time gravel here, which adds reap to the damage of our trait, as well as an extra reap source. And this one has tier 1 affliction and tier 1 skill duration. I would really like to get tier 1 additional reap damage to our trait as well as affliction effect, but I haven't found a single memory with that on its affixes, and unfortunately it just didn't happen. So this is the best I could find. If you can have that, those are probably going to be the 2 best things you can get on your memories. And yeah guys, that's pretty much the update as is right now. I hope that was helpful. If it was, feel free to drop a like and a sub to the channel. Drop a comment if you have any questions, and I'll catch you guys later. Bye bye.